let's judge these banned cards and see if they're worthy of being pulled off the list or not. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Can This Card Be Unbanned? So, like usual, let's go over the comments before we get into today's cards. And Tenebrae 17 talks about all the cards mentioned, and apart from one that I had talked about, briefly mentioned, that I'm going to admit I kind of glanced over and did notice the extra deck thing, but I want to say I guess I just skimmed over that. I don't remember. Either way, so the first one is about Elder Entity Norden. Searching up the name of Digusto Emerald, as you mentioned in the beginning of the part, why was that not banned so far? That is just a really damn good effect outside of it not having protection. So I'm surprised that hasn't been banned. As far as it being not brought back during the current era, I guess you could call it, of the severely nerfed Zodiac archetype. Yeah, I'm surprised, considering Zodiac Rapier is at 1 right now, which severely limits how powerful that deck can be. Luna Light Black Sheep, that's part of a different archetype. I have no knowledge on White Sheep. Oh, was it Black Sheep? Let's see. Oh, Black Sheep. Luna Light Black Sheep. Oh, That's actually a decent card. It's a Lunar Light version of one of the hero cards. For the most, well, pretty much. Minus the ditching of a card from your hand. But the method in which you mentioned, yeah, honestly, that's one of the reasons why Konami doesn't seem to anticipate alternate uses for cards, and I kind of find it funny that they don't realize that. And you mentioning the in today's context stuff, yeah, I would honestly agree with that. That's why I mentioned if it was going to come back, it'd have to be nerfed with like some clause to it. So yeah. Fiber Jar, yeah, that's why I mentioned it would have to be nerfed to like what did I mention? Once per duel and having to be banished or something to that effect. Because resetting the entire game is frustrating and it takes too long, especially if you're playing in a tournament setting and there's a timer. You could just run the timer out and have it be based off of life point difference at the end. So, yeah. Fairytale Snow being the reset because we were able to banish your own monsters. That's another one I mentioned that needed a once per turn clause. If I recall correctly. Even I have one copy of the effect not being once per turn. Yeah, I'm still surprised even to this day that they don't play test their cards before printing them, or play testing it digitally before actually printing them. Just gonna put that out there, especially like within the last 8 years or so, which I think that's when it first came out. Yeah. Dandy White Lion. Yeah, I looked it over after noticing the comment from you. I had originally thought up a strategy with that card. It can still be done. It would have to be a little bit longer, but I still believe you can turbo out turn one Obelisk the Tormentor with that card. It just takes a couple extra steps. But, yeah, just saying. As far as exchange and compensation, yes, I do agree. Compensation is a one-sided information gathering card. Exchange is a two-sided one. I just mentioned the one card because it had the same basic idea, but it wasn't a full-fledged one-for-one. So, yeah. Anything else? Orcus. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. The rest of it, yeah, I do agree. Yeah. Alright, so for today's first card, we have Fishborg Blaster. So what does Fishborg Blaster do? Well, it's a level 1 water fish tuner monster. If you control a face-up level 3 or lower water monster, you can discard one card. Special summon this card from your graveyard. If this card is used as a synchro material, all other synchro material monsters must be water. So right off the bat, this is a pretty damn good effect to cheat out water synchro monsters, and I wouldn't be surprised it was used in that particular way. Let's take a quick second. And yeah, that's what I figured. So this card was banned because it was highly searchable and disposable. If it were one of the types, attributes that had the smallest amount of cards in it, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But since it's in a pool of pun intended, pool of cards that has one of the higher ones, not light and dark being the most, it was a problem. If it was brought back today, it would easily be slid right into decks like Marincess and be used in that deck. So I can honestly say with this effect right now, definitely a no. There would have to be a clause of some sort. I'm not sure what would help with bringing this card back, but there would have to be a clause of some sort put onto the card to limit what it can do and how. Well, apart from once per duel, maybe. But beyond that, I'm not sure what could be put onto this to bring it back. So, yes, definitely no in its current format, especially since Marincess is, I believe, still viable and playable in the current format, since the Marincess deck hasn't seen any hits. Alright, so card number 2 for today is Giant Trunade. Giant Trunade is a normal magic card with the effect of return all spell and trap cards on the field to their owner's hands. So Giant Trunade's biggest problem was that it could reset any and all once per turn cards, and that in all by itself is a problem, especially if it wasn't a trap card. Now, what I did look up was that it did mention trap cards like Skill Drain, but the problem being is that if it was your side that you brought it back to your hand, that is definitely a negative. So you would have to be on your opponent's on your opponent's skill drain. So that would cause your opponent to have to sacrifice another 1,000 life points and waste an extra turn for it to be of any use. Now, in terms of bringing this card back, there would have to be a clause on it to state any cards with a any once per turn effects still activate. I'm not sure how to put it best. Any cards that have been activated that can only be used once per turn cannot be reactivated, or along the lines of that. Considering right now there are still cards that have hard once per turns or soft once per turns. Now, it did mention Union cards, but that's the funny thing. They're just about to bring back Union cards, so I have no idea. They're probably... Even with the once per turn, I don't believe you can bring back Giant Trunade. Even with that, so it's going to be a toss-up, honestly. So, yeah. So for the next card, let's see what we got. Okay, so the next card we have is Glow Up Bulb. And it is a level 1 Earth Plant Tuner monster with the effect of, if this card is in your graveyard, you can set the top card of your deck to the graveyard. I mean, you can, send. And if you do, special summon this card. You can only use this effect of Glow Up Bulb once per duel. Now, regardless of this card having a once per duel effect, I would not be too surprised if this was used in a... I almost wanted to say that one. In a Rose Dragon deck. If not, it would have been used in some other high-cost synchro monster. But the fact that you could not only get a card from an easier way to special summon this card than like using a card from your hand or on the field to bring it back. Now, this card does not have protection, so if you used Called by the Grave on it, it would just be a dud anyways. But like I mentioned, I think it was used to bring in like one of the Signer Dragons or any plant monster, or anything outside of that. So yes. Now, nowadays, what is the really current high tier plant deck? Or I'm not sure, because I know Trap Tricks was good, and then I believe it fell off a little bit. Not completely sure on that one. But in terms of this card itself, I think the only way you can like feasibly bring it back is if you either dealt with the card sent to the graveyard or add in the clause that the synchro monster special summoned using this card has its effect negated. I don't know. It's something I'm throwing out there as a possible solution for Glow Up Bulb, but who knows? Either way, in its current form, I don't know. I really have no idea if whether or not it can be brought back or not. So, Secondhand opinions are welcome on this one. So, yeah. And for the last one for today, I believe was actually mentioned before. Graceful Charity. So, Graceful Charity is a magic card, and its effect is draw 3 cards, then discard 2. This one did not deal with graveyard effects. So people would, I want to say, since it didn't mention graveyard effects, that people stockpiled cards like Sandgan and Witch of the Black Forest? I want to say it was that one. Yes, Witch of the Black Forest. I think the other card I was thinking was Goddess of the Third Eye. But both of those cards... Oh, the Witch did from the field. Okay, so Sandgan, I believe, was just sent to the graveyard. Was it? Was it? Oh, both of them did it. Never mind. Still, it didn't deal with graveyard effects. So, one way it could be resolved, regardless of you going +3 and then -2, I could see this card still being used in some capacity to fill up your graveyard, especially if it was slotted into, say, hero, because Wake Up Your Elemental Hero needs more monsters, and the more monsters you use for the summon, it gains more attacks. But in terms of Graceful Charity, I would say there would have to be a clause regarding any graveyard effects. It would be any monster sent to the graveyard have their graveyard effects negated. But beyond that, I'm not too completely sure. Now, like I did mention Hero being a viable target for this, but it could be used for just about any deck that can special summon itself from the graveyard or anything really. So there would have to be a heavy nerf on this card for tournaments. So with its current form, I want to say no at this moment. Unless there are ways that, like, it can't be overly used. So, yeah. And I think that's going to do it for me today. So, any, like, banter you all want to have with about today's cards, go ahead, feel free in the comments below. And until next time, everybody, goodbye.